Here. All right, everybody. Happy Monday, Thanksgiving. Welcome to LiveFULLy. Thanks for hopping on with us tonight. It's exciting to be back in the groove. We've been taking a couple of weeks off because a lot of us have been involved in the Growth U Top 50 event that was in Hilton Head, and just doing some traveling through the holidays. So it's good to be back. And hey, Bernadette.
Hello.
And hello. So tonight we have Mike Campbell as our special guest, and I'm going to give a brief little introduction about kind of how Mike and I met, but he's got a really incredible, inspiring story that he's going to be sharing with us. And then Morgan and Mike and I will all three be giving some of our takeaways from the retreat that we just got back from in Hilton Head, that we had just an incredible lineup of trainers, and we dove really deep into mindset and things like identity and belief systems. And, we'll talk a little bit about both, but really, just understanding what makes us who we think we are, and then what our infinite potential is, when we really tap into what our vision is for our lives and what we can do. If we put our minds to it and really kind of do some retraining of our thoughts and our belief systems. So Mike and I met in Hilton Head, and I think I had seen you on a call before. Did you do a call with Casey?
I probably didn't present on a call, no, I don't think.
Okay.
But I've been on a lot of different calls, and you and I have crossed paths several times.
Yeah, there was one call that I feel like I've do some presenting on, but definitely cross paths. So anyway, Mike and I got to know each other a little bit at Hilton Head retreat, and had a call after the retreat just about his story and how he came to lose. I mean, what are you at now? I know it was 150 pounds before the Isagenix, but
2009, 2008, 2009, 2010, I lost 150 in 363 days. And then I've been on a major reboot recently.
That's just incredible. So we're going to hear about that from Mike. And then I just asked him to guest, partly because we want to hear the story about weight loss and how you lost 150 pounds in 363 days. Is that what you said? 363?
Don't concentrate on 363 days.
Okay. Like in a year. It's just like, oh my God. I mean, I lost 100 with bypass and in a year, and with a stomach that big. So for you to just do it, that's pretty incredible. But then also, what we're going to go into as part of his story is really talk about how important mindset is when you have that kind of a goal in front of you. So, I was telling Morgan that I just got connected with someone in a different country who's lost over 200 pounds with Isagenix, and we're going to have her guest hopefully next week or maybe the week after. But just, when all of us have gone through that point where you're getting started, right? Where you make the decision. We look at the retreat, it's called the inception phase. You have a high degree of motivation, something new to make a change. And there's a high degree of effort. So you're all in, you're ready to get up and eat the way you should and go to the gym or work out, do whatever you want to do. So you're on fire, but then you have like no competency because it's not part of, what your subconscious knows. And your subconscious really just keep you safe and stay the same. So our subconscious does not like change. So the more change we throw at it, the more it's going to resist and say, wait a minute, what are we doing? We don't like this, right? So the inception phase is what I want you, Mike, to start out talking about, that what, as you were getting started at, whatever your is, like, what was it that kind of kicked you off and said, okay, it's time to get healthy. I'm really ready to do this, you know, in my mind, and ready to kind of push through that inception phase. Inception comes deception, and that's where we start to resist. That's where the subconscious really kicks in and starts to say, hold on a second, you know, we don't remember, we don't like working out every day, or we don't feel like getting up and getting to bed to do this, or I really would rather have that pizza and piece of cake shake again. That deception, we know it's going to come up, but like obviously we find a way to push through that. So tell us a little bit about how, you know, when you got started, was there a defining moment, an event that happened that kind of kicked off your ability or your wanting, you know, to get healthy? And then tell us a little bit as part of your story of, you know, maybe some hurdles or roadblocks that you ran into part of that deception phase that kind of maybe bubbled up. And now if it wasn't smooth sailing the entire 150 pounds, how did you work through that deception phase?
You hit a lot of points there. Deception, my journey happened a little bit differently. It was an aha moment, though. I'll start with that. And basically, that's one of the pictures of me at Camp Chemo. I don't know if y'all can see that, but I'm bigger than the two people in the picture with me, and I love those people. And that was in 2008 in the summer. I was probably over 360 pounds. And then when I actually had the aha moment, which I've had several in my life, this isn't the first one. You talked about addiction before. I've dealt with that also. But that picture right there is me in February 2009. And I weighed somewhere around 360 pounds, 7 medications, a CPAP machine, struggling with my health, felt horrible, just wasn't even comfortable in my own skin. And where that picture was taken was Wando High School in Charleston, where my niece, who's my godchild, was in production 42nd Street. And my wife, Polly, would always find an end seat for us to sit in because I was so large. And I didn't want to infringe on anybody else that was sitting there. I just wasn't happy and wasn't comfortable. So that's one of the first things. At the same time, Polly was thinking, just how big are you going to get? And she actually talked to a good friend of hers about it. And her friend said, you know, what are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to talk to Michael about it. And she said, you might not want to do that. You know, you might want to send him an email or leave him a note, because I don't know that's going to be a good conversation. Which you probably wouldn't have. We had that conversation several months after my journey started. But the defining moment was the same week in February 2009. Polly came home from a community emergency response team meeting, and she's a nurse, a school nurse now, and she was volunteering for it. And a firefighter, a fire professional, had come in and talked to him about being in a burning building with all these important people, and the president, the mayor, your family members, your spouse, your parents, all these important people, and asked her, who's the most important person in a fire? Well, she came home that night to tell me about it. I'm sitting probably in this very same room in a lounge chair eating ice cream with the 2 pups by me. She tells me the story, and I said, well, who's the most important person in a fire? She goes, well, it's me, because if I can't figure out how to get out of the fire, I can't help anybody else get out of the fire. And I really liked that story, and it hit home with me, but not the way it needed to. And it bounced around in my head for about 3 weeks. And on March 2nd of 2009, I woke up, and I have these aha moments where everything kind of clicks into place. And Polly went off to school. I went straight to my laptop, and I sat down. My mind's just going crazy, putting puzzle pieces in place. And I realized that I loved helping all these people in my career at the Ports Authority. And I left that to do the Boys and Girls Club as exec director for 3.5 years. I was great at helping everybody else, but I wasn't good at taking care of myself. And I looked in the mirror and I said, oh my God, you're in your own personal fire. Basically the building's burning down around you and you can't get out. So if you can't get out of your own fire, how are you going to help anybody else in your life? Your family, your friends, all this other stuff you like to do. How is that going to work? And I sat down at the computer and started a spreadsheet that very moment. Put March 2nd, 2009, put my weight, day one, And I guess my log, my initial log or entry was probably the greatest thing I'd done to start it. I had the aha moment, but I basically I was starting a journey, wasn't an A to B diet. So journey was a key part of it. And throughout the first entry, the biggest part was I was giving myself permission and direction to start my journey. And I ended by saying, I needed to take care of me. And I always tell people, take care of you so that I can be the best me for my family, friends, and community. Basically, that was the bottom line to it. So I was creating a mission statement and giving myself direction and permission to take care of me because I'd never really done that before. I was great at helping everybody else. So that was the beginning of it, and the aha moment. And that was my why and what I hung on to throughout the start of my journey and throughout working on weight loss, working on the diet, working on, researching everything for myself at the time. I logged on that spreadsheet, not just for the first year, but I logged on that spreadsheet for 3 years. And I was so focused and so intent that, and the thing is about, when you talk about deception and inception and all, the part of the story that y'all didn't hear is I dealt with addiction before. I dealt with alcohol addiction in my 20s for about 10 years and came out of that, which was I call it a high bottom. It wasn't pretty, but it was a high bottom. Dealt with cigarette addiction, and now I was dealing with obesity and being addicted to sugar, all the bad foods, bad lifestyle habits. So I kind of had a mindset of how to get out of it. And my bumps really didn't come until after I lost 150. And I started hitting some major hurdles in my life. And I tried to prepare myself for them. But they were still major bumps. I always faced in the right direction. And basically, when I lost 150 pounds, I found out a couple months after that my father-in-law had 3 months to live. And I was at Camp Chemo when that happened, which is my happy place, being at Camp Chemo and being with the kids with cancer. And Morgan probably knows that, and I know Casey does because I met Casey through Camp Chemo programs. And that was a bump that I hit where I saw my weight kind of go up and down. It was kind of difficult. It took me out of my habits because I established my identity. But as I like to tell people, 53 years of bad lifestyle habits don't correct in a year. You have to kind of pay attention because that's up here in your head and in your heart that you're going to kind of go back to that. That's like we talk about comfortable. That was comfortable. We worked through that. The hardest part with my father-in-law was, and it was very difficult at the time, they gave him 3 months and he lived 10 months. And anybody who's ever been through that, we went back and forth from Charleston, which is in South Carolina in the lower state, to the upstate. We stayed all summer with him through 2011. That would be 2010. He didn't pass till the end of February, beginning of March of 2011. And we went back and forth constantly. So that took me out of my rhythm, but I tried to focus on how I could take care of my family and take care of me at the same time. And I kept coming back to that statement, that why of what I was doing. After Garvin passed, my father-in-law, 2 years later, my mother-in-law passed. We helped take care of her for a long time. Hit a similar bump and worked through it a little bit better than I did with Garvin because I was more mentally prepared for it. I understood what I was dealing with. But the hardest bump was when my mom passed in 2015. The last day, end of April 2015, she had a major stroke, the second one she'd had. I was actually on the phone with her when she had the stroke, and it was the day after my mom and dad's 60th anniversary. She was in the hospital for 4 days, and we knew she was leaving us. And during that time with family and all, I kind of mentally prepared because I'd known what I'd been through before. But as my mom passed and I was helping my dad, my brothers out and all, everything we were working on was it was tough, but I still had the mindset I can help my family and still take care of me. But the almost unbelievable happened. The Saturday of the funeral, I was going to pick up my dad to go to the funeral. I got hit by a car, and the only good part about it was my car was still drivable, the other car wasn't. And I wanted to pass it off that I wasn't really that injured when it happened, but I had a lot of complications with my shoulder and neck, a lot of complications with dealing with the insurance company. And it kind of put me in a spiral for probably 16 to 18 months till the beginning of this year.
So let me interrupt you really quick.
Go
When you,
ahead.
like, more specifically, when you say, like, when these things pop up and, like, I go, or it put me into a spiral, like, what exactly, did you just turn to food, or was it kind of like an abort everything, workouts, or, I mean, like, how did that affect goal or your vision? Or are you just saying, like, emotionally you were just kind of thrown off track?
Emotionally and physically. Emotionally, I was thrown off because at the time I was focused on taking care of family, and I've been doing Isagenix for a little while, knew Casey, and I was looking at doing the business. I'd already signed up for a retreat. I'd already signed up for a celebration. And it really, dealing with the pain and everything, with dealing with the past of my mom and the uncertainty, going back to uncertainty again, I got out of rhythm. Now, the best way I can describe it is I was still facing the right direction, but I kept getting knocked back. And I'd put on some weight and I'd stabilize. I'd put on some weight and stabilize. My workouts were obviously affected, but my eating was affected too, because those 53 years of bad lifestyle habits kept jumping back in my head. So I was still trying to eat right. I was using Isagenix, and that's probably what kept me in balance, was actually using it. So I was doing some things right, but I was doing a lot of things wrong during that period, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I just was getting ready to type, to the group, like, Morgan, the same as your ankle. It's like, no matter how much success you have, or, how well you think you're doing, when one of those, life circumstances happens that kind of causes you, like, that could be a trigger of some kind, or, a reason to stop you, moving forward or progressing. It's like that uncertainty is like, we want to go to what's comfortable, right? Like, we want to go back to, like, and when I say we, I'm saying, like, our subconscious, sometimes we don't even know that it's going on, I mean, Bernadette, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just raising my hand saying, like, right here, I'm right here with you. I
Yeah.
understand life happens. And
Giving me an amen.
yeah, that was my silent amen
Got
to you
you.
guys.
Amen.
And I'll just, if I can, I'll tell you, I me and my husband split up at the beginning of the year, and I thought I'll never go back to any of those bad eating habits. But Mike, to your point, 41 years of bad eating habits can't undo when life happens. And going from 106 pounds back to 140 pounds, swearing I would never get back there again. And then life literally just came by and swooped my feet right from underneath me, and back up the scale I went. I understand that. It just happens.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That was my amen to you.
Thank you very much. Amen to you too. But I kept facing the right direction. I think that's the important part for me. The beginning of this year, I just kicked myself in the butt. Totally kicked myself in the butt. I sat down and I was 260 pounds. And a lot of people didn't realize I was that heavy at the time. Because particularly as you go into the winter months, it's a little easier to hide it, I think. But I've been creeping up to it for a long time, over the 18 months or so, 18 months, I guess it was 20 months almost. And then just a lot of things built up, and I was fed up with it. I'm still dealing with the insurance company. I'm still dealing with some rehab, but I was like, this is not going back to identity. This is not the identity I want, and this is not the identity I'm going to live with. And reset, got back in the Isabody, which we were talking about, and went back to my primary care doctor, got some drugs to deal with the nerve issues, found my doctor that helped me deal with some rehab on my shoulder, and actually found out what the problems were, which were evade me over 18 to 20 months. And now it's pretty much not totally corrected, but it's manageable. And I'm working not around it, I'm working considering it and doing workouts and I'm eating right. I lost, more in the spring and the summer, I think I lost 23 pounds during that. I lost 30 something in that window with Isabody. And then I stabilized over the summer. And now I'm back in another Isabody challenge, as well as obviously Chris and Morgan. And God bless y'all for coming in second too. It's time for an old man to win. I'm sorry. But the focus is back, and my identity is back. And we keep going back to identity. But it took me going to retreat with y'all to understand that my identity has changed a number of times over my life, with becoming a recovering alcoholic, with stopping smoking, with coming out of obesity. My identity has changed numerous times. That's just the couple I'm naming right now. I can think of other times my identity has changed. So I know that I can actually change my identity. I know I can change my lifestyle habits to build into my identity. And I know anybody can do it. I think the hard part is convincing people they can do it and helping them understand. And being around the people I've been around, Chris and Morgan and anybody on this call, if you can look at your habits and own up to them and understand that they're there and make a plan to work on better habits, understanding what the habits are that have gotten you in the wrong place, you can get to where you want to go. Now, is it going to be easy? No. Are you going to hit bumps like we've talked about? Yes. A lot of people that I talk to that don't know me or don't have this discussion with me think I've traveled some straight line. And I've done nothing but travel a jagged line. The journey's hit a lot of bumps and all, but I've always faced in the right direction. And now I've made it through the major bump. And what's happened on each bump, and I can tell by looking at going to the retreat and talking to everybody, and everybody at our retreat shared struggles, is everybody hit the bumps and kept facing the right direction and learned from those struggles. And it's how you learn from those struggles that define you, and what you apply once you learn from those struggles. And I learned so much from my struggles in life, and I realized also at the retreat that I kept saying my struggles define me, but actually my struggles didn't define me. What defined me was how I dealt with those struggles and how I figured a way to stay on my journey. And again, I've listened to so many people recently, and the retreat is the retreat is gold, because it's nothing but positive people. Everybody's sharing. If you didn't learn some of that retreat, your eyes were closed, your ears were closed. You had to totally shut down not to learn anything there. So I'll stop for a second and let y'all ask any questions or throw in any comments or whatever at this point.
That's awesome. And just for anybody who joined late, we had just referenced a retreat called, it was Growth U, but it was a event with Rod Hairston in Hilton Head. And so really the focus, there's actually a follow-on course that goes for the next 6 weeks where we're diving super deep into identity and belief systems and really becoming, like, what does it take to become a new person with new beliefs about yourself, like that you actually can achieve these different visions that you have in your life, because these, our patterns, we've talked about so many times on these calls, how our patterns just keep us from moving forward because we're so stuck in who we think we are. And that can be changed. but it takes work. It takes, a really clear understanding of where that identity comes from in the first place. And one thing that I wanted to mention that, we have now calls for the next 6 weeks as a for the people that decided to continue on with the course. But our leader, one of our Growth U, made a comment last night on our call. And she said, I think she used the word courage, but like we have to please have the courage to leave that old identity behind you. And at first I was kind of like, oh, is that really courageous? But it is, like, the exact reasons that you just talked about, Mike, that it's like when you don't know who you are, like who you really are, who you can be, then it's scary to be something that you're not, right? Like we talked about uncertainty. So it's like, if you have certain beliefs about yourself or your abilities, your capabilities, like, am I really going to be able to lose this 100 pounds? Am I really going to be able to win the Ice Body Challenge? Like where I was at the past, however many times I started, I didn't stop. You don't just all of a sudden get to a point where a light switch goes off and now you're completely brand new with a belief system. It's work. Like it's really gaining an understanding of who you are, up to this point. So what are the experiences? We talked about alcoholism, we talked about addiction, we talked about, all the things, and so many people's lives that people were an open book at that retreat and shared about some really deep wounds that happened, in childhood or all the way through life that kind of creates what you think, right? This is who I am. And, Tanya, our leader on the call, really challenged somebody to say, yeah, like it's going to be hard, but have the courage to let go for something else. Like you're going to run into deception and times where that feels uncomfortable and you don't know, but like to charge forward in the same direction as the words that you used. It does take courage, because it's like you got to keep pressing through every single day when that comfort is pulling you back into that old identity, saying, no, can't do it. You can't do it. It's like that little devil sitting on your shoulder. And that just, I don't know, that really struck me last night when she said, I challenge you to have the courage to let identity go and be open to the fact that like you can do anything, you can be anything. Like if there's something in the back of your head and you can't, that's normal. That happens to everyone. It happens still with us, right? But like this, and you said it too. People see you start and then they see that you've lost 150 pounds, but they don't see every single day that happened in between. They don't see every single time, like Morgan, every single time you sprain an ankle and that in and says, here we go again. This is the point where you fail because you're working out until you get injured and you're taken out and the weight goes back up. And it's like you have to really press through and charge through that, have the courage to be open that this might not end the same way this time, or fall back, in the same patterns. And like, it's normal for that to happen, but like really where I feel like people hit that, gigantic aha or life change is when you continue to press through all of those many, many moments. It's not, just one. It's, oh my gosh, how many times have I been here in the past year? Like where I want to turn back, where I want to identity and settle back into, the Chris that was 100 pounds overweight, the Chris that quits every body challenge because I done it anyway. And so I might as well go ahead and eat this thing anyway. And I don't like to work out. I never did. So how do I think that I'm going to be able to do it for the next 4 months when it's something I don't even like? Like that's comfortable for me. But that challenge of, going through that deception phase, and Morgan, I would love if you would, share a little bit about you've hit your 100 pounds now. Awesome. I know we were leading up to it, interviewed you when you were almost there. And we talked about that too. It's like you're going to reach this certain point and there's going to be this massive level of like excitement. It's not, right? Like you wake up the next day and you're like, okay, well, I lost 100 pounds. Now it's like over, right? Like, what do you do now? Like now it's like keep pressing forward instead of falling back into what's comfortable. So if you have anything to share on that, I think that was a big part of your, I would love for the group to hear it.
Yes. Hello. Thank you, Mike, for sharing your story. I've always been drawn, since the very beginning. Casey had sent me, I guess it was like a download or some type of book. And from the very beginning, your story has always been really inspiring to me. And I've gotten off 102 pounds now, and it was very exciting for sure. It's kind of like that goal reached, but I've lost 100 pounds before, a few times, and I found it each time. And what I know to be different this time is the work that has been done up here. And so I feel so much more in control with it. There was so much at the retreat, and I've learned so much about myself through this. And what we talked about earlier, Chris, was like, let's take an honest self-assessment of what I was doing to get myself here. And Mike, that story that you shared that one time about that little boy who asked you that question, like, how did I get this fat? Like, how did I get myself into this situation again? And it's something that we don't really think about or do often. It's, you say that you want a certain goal, or that you want to be healthy, or that you want to have an Isagenix business, or you want to do this certain things. And I can sit here and show you my beginning picture of where I'm 286 pounds, busting out, just with a smile on my face that is there, but a person who's dead inside. And then I can show you the person who's 184 pounds, 102 pounds gone. And all you see is the before and the after. But in there is 5 years of events, books. I've completed 11 IsaBody challenges. 7 of those were completed with weight gain on them. And so it was just like Mike was saying, Chris was saying, it was the lessons that I was learning, and it was that determination and that the will inside of me saying that I have to change. I want something different. And then it was plugging in and surrounding myself with the culture of Isagenix people. And I know that not everybody might not do Isagenix, but finding some type of culture and surrounding yourself with people who are working on themselves up here. Because it doesn't matter how many surgeries you have, how many special pills you have, whatever diet, cutting out sugar, whatever it is that you do, if you don't fix up here to go along with whatever system you're doing, you're going to find yourself in that same revolving door and that same identity eventually. And, so I hit the 100 pounds, and I was excited, but I was also so scared, and I'm still kind of scared. And I talked to Mike about this at the retreat. It's like, because I had cut out some certain food groups, not really cut them out, but like basic white starchy carbs and basic white sugars, unless they were like in the Isagenix products, or natural sugars like apples and things like that. I'd gotten rid of a lot of things because I had found those pastas, cookies, cakes, things like that to be a real trigger for me. And when I eat things like that, it is almost like a drug, and it makes me feel like I'm craving those things to where I lose control, and then I'm out of control and going down a downward spiral. And so since March, when I really got dedicated, I had kind of given up some of those foods and switched them for, sweet potatoes and brown rice and quinoa and things like that. And so Thanksgiving came around, and, we had macaroni and cheese and dressing and things that were there. And so I just, had to take an honest self-assessment, back to the honest self-assessment. And Morgan, you're going to enjoy Thanksgiving. And so I went around and I had, a very small macaroni and a very small dressing, and, continued to eat regular. But just like that, and I don't know if it's something mental, but just the next day I already felt like I was craving certain things. And then, so I ate a little bit more day 2, and then day 3 leftovers came, and I saw myself eating a little bit more, and I was sitting on the couch, just eating popcorn and cheese and just eating more than normal. And I had to stop myself right there and say, you know what, tomorrow's going to be a cleanse day. Like, that's it. And so having a system like Isagenix, and then having the ability to kind of have the awareness to know that when you're getting a little bit out of control or what happened, to not beat yourself up over it and say, you know what, that's okay. This is what happened. Let's get ourselves back on track. And then, with Isagenix, it's just so easy to get yourself back on track. And the deception part, the inception when you're really excited, and then the deception part where you kind of like something happens, your ankle or a life event comes in or whatever. It's like almost like a test, and that's how I've been looking at it lately. It's almost like, okay, this is a test. And if I can get through this, or when I get through this, that creates my transformation and my identity. And so, I'm starting to learn how to just embrace the deceptions and embrace the life events that happen. And some of them, of course, are going to be a lot harder to deal with than others when you have death in the family, or you have something that's, more emotional. And, everybody's situation is going to be different with that, of how you deal with things. But living in a healthy body, and what you said, we have to be able to take it. We're no good for anybody if we're not living in a healthy body ourselves. Yeah. And so that's just where I am right now. And so of course, I am going for that Isagenix challenge. So Chris and Mike will have to fight it out, but nothing like a little competition.
This call, right? Like, I get to have the last word. You can talk all you want, because I'm going to end the call. And on that note, we're going to end the meeting now. Oh, man. I want to hear from other people on the call tonight. We've got some people, that have been on before, some people I think that might be newer. And just see if you have any questions for Morgan, or even just any comments about, what you feel like you run into, on your own journey when it comes to belief systems and, setting goals, but really believing that it's something that you can attain, and running into deception, creating a new identity. What are some of your thoughts about what we've been talking about?
Hey, Chris, it's Dave. Hey, guys. Hey, Mike, I appreciate you chatting here. And one of the takeaways I heard from you tonight, Mike, was you were doing a little bit of the right and then a lot of the wrong. Okay, and that's where I'm at now. I've been doing a little bit of the right, my one shake a day, and then I've been eating like Thanksgiving. And basically, I know that we're all on a journey. And what's beautiful is that we're all transforming at our own pace. And my takeaway overall, this whole thing, is that I'm right where I need to be, because I'm right where I'm at because of my choices. And one of the things I take away from Morgan is Isagenix is my solution to get back on. And I'm doing a 2-day cleanse, and I've recommitted to the IsaBody challenge. And I'm also committed to a healthy mind and healthy body, because I know that Isagenix gives us the tools that we need in order to be successful. And, I've lost 108 pounds on the system, and I've proceeded to pack on 50 of that back. And I asked the question, why? And I'll tell you exactly why. Because life got in the way, and I started to do a little bit of the right and a lot of the wrong. And that simple equation, if we do a lot of the right and a little bit of the wrong, shall we say, the wrong food, it's okay. But when I do a lot of the wrong foods for me, like Morgan said, it's like a drug. It just causes me to go eat more of the same crap that got me into the mix. So what do, right? Do I get up off the couch and go work out, or do I sit on the couch, turn the channel, and grab another bag of chips or whatever it is? And so for the last 5, 6, now 8 months, I've dealt with my brother, who's an alcoholic, and all of his life burden was on me. I've had a dad check out of my personal business, and my oldest brother, was in the Las Vegas Route 91 thing. And so over this past 8 to 12 months here, I've really been feeling the pressure and I've not been succeeding. I've been using food again as my crutch.
Right.
And it's not a crutch. It's really an avenue to help me realize more of myself. And that's why I love this group, because we're also real. We're also open and vulnerable. And it's about us being vulnerable here so that we can be victorious later. And that's what I see all of us here, is that we're vulnerable and yet we're all going to be victorious. And obviously on this phone call right now, we got 3 Isabody champions, you know, and you're all going to have to fight it out because I'm going to be the winner. So, but again though, right, this is the beauty, the piece of Isabody, is that it challenges us. Yeah. Right? It challenges us. And I haven't been challenged. I'm challenged in business, but I'm not necessarily challenged physically. And this challenges me. So that's kind of where I'm at. I appreciate your guys' time, and keep it going.
Chris,
Hey.
one thing I didn't address, one thing I used as far as the mind and body, mind and heart for me is early on I came up with an acronym that I added to recently when I did the part for the book with Jim. John. Is HAWK. It's an acronym I use every day that I wake up to, and it's the H is honesty, because self-honesty is a really tough thing. And if you can look in the mirror every day and figure out what you did good and bad the day before and deal with it, that's going to be a big deal if you deal with it daily. The A is attitude. Every morning, we all have circumstances, and we've all heard different circumstances over this call and the last couple of weeks that I've talked to some of you. You can still choose your attitude when you get up in the morning. And if you choose a good attitude, you're likely going to make good choices. If you choose a bad attitude, like me, if I have a bad attitude, I know I'm going to make bad choices. The W is water. Everybody knows you need to drink that. That's totally different, but it helps you with your mind. It really does. That half an ounce of water per pound of body weight a day. The last one is K, and my dad told me this at 23 years old when I was talking about management theory. I walked out the door. He said, remember one thing. He said, KISS. And at that time, I had no idea what he was talking about. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
And I try to apply that to everything I do. So when you're dealing with this, remember honesty, attitude, water, and KISS. Keep it simple, because we try to make the big problems complicated. This can be hard. Don't make it complicated. So that would be my advice to the group. And that's the advice I try and give myself every day, to not forget.
Love it. Love it. Who else?
So can I just say one more thing? It's Bernadette.
Of course.
Perfect. So, you know, I manage Lane Bryant, so I'm always in a constant struggle between my very fit body and still making a woman feel good about the skin she lives in, right? And so one of the things I always say to women, and I would say it to men, except I just don't deal with men on a regular basis, is this right here is my house. This is the house I live in, and it's the only one I have. But if I think about that in the literal sense, we don't, for the most part, we don't make our houses dirty. When it's dirty, we clean it. When laundry needs to be done, we do it. And if we think of our bodies in the same way, and I do a little of the right and a lot of the wrong sometimes also. But if we take care of our houses in the same manner we take care of our real like houses, our physical houses. And sometimes when I think about that, I'm a little more diligent to the choices that I make every day. And then the second part of that would be one day that we screw up in food, Thanksgiving, Easter, New Year's, birthday, all that, it doesn't make up the 30 days. We can screw up. And if you don't feel guilty about it, you don't gain weight. That is a scientific fact.
And she's gone. And that's a scientific fact. Like, no, it's like, boom, gone. You know, one of the things that comes up a lot is, you know, how do I approach somebody that is really, really overweight? Like, and they most of the time don't know my story. Because I'm like, well, you can try it on me. Because I'm that girl, you know, like that overweight. Like, how do I approach somebody about, you know, Isagenix without hurting their feelings, or about, like, you know, wanting to get healthy. And, you know, for a while I had to, like, start dialing myself back, because it's just like, what are we talking about here right now? Like, are we about someone's feelings or improving their blood pressure? Like, choose your heart. You know, like, are we talking about, like, oh, I don't know if that person's feelings are going to be hurt? Or I'm like, well, I want to keep them alive longer. I feel like that far outweighs, you know, hurting someone's feelings. So it's like, I mean, had somebody had a solution that was going to work no matter what, as long as I took it, had somebody shared that with me before I had gastric bypass surgery, like, I wouldn't have been worried about my feelings I would have been like, give me that stuff. I would have been pissed if they didn't share it with me. And so I think, you know, if there's one thing about having, you know, a confidence as far as who you are, there's another thing about taking care of the body that you're in. You talked about, you know, the house, this temple, you know, that we have around. And it's not just for us, but most of the time it's for other people too. It's for children, it's for grandchildren. It's, you know, like, an obligation that we have to our bodies. And so, you know, to me, that just far outweighs, you know, I don't want to speak up or share this with somebody because I might hurt their feelings. I'm like, oh my God, hurting like, if you would have known, if I would have known this before everything that I went through, and I would have known how well it works, and seeing people losing 100, 200, 300 pounds without going through all the side effects I've gone through from surgery, I mean, it just would have been a different world. So, I mean, move forward with what you've got, but I just think, you know, that whole idea of being open to a new identity and being open to detaching from that old one, it's something that we do not just once, but it's over and over and over, like, as deception creeps, as we, you know, hit times in our lives that kind of knock us sideways. You know, like, it's comfortable to fall back and take the easy route. It's uncomfortable to press through and say, wait a minute, that's me, that's who I am now. And the new me runs in this kind of way, you know, instead of falling backwards. And so, and that, again, guys, like, you know, Morgan's like, that's 5 years of books and retreats and personal development, and people turn me on, and surrounding myself with people that are successful and that are encouraging and uplifting. And I mean, it's, you know, it's a process. So I don't ever want it to come off like it's this, you know, magic genie that, like, oh, learned about personal development, now I can go become a new person. It's like, no, this is a daily, you know, commitment to get up and press through to that new identity. What else? We've got about 5 minutes before we wrap up and talk about how I'm going to be the Ice Body. So anybody else? What else?
Oh my God.
Debbie, hi, Kay. Anyone else have anything that they want to add or?
Oh, my fat pants.
Go ahead.
I forgot my fat pants.
Oh my God! Oh my gosh! They don't even fit on the screen.
I don't know if you can see them.
Yes. Come up. Wow.
Yeah, they were 54s getting let out to 56s. So I forgot about those. They housed a lot of issues.
Wow. It's incredible.
Oh, I'm blessed. I'll tell you, I'm blessed. I'm healthier and fitter now, and I'm 61 and a half than I've ever been in my life. I can do things now that I've never been able to do before. And it's because of my mindset, and Isagenix has a lot to do with it now. I mean, it's the best fuel I've found. And people who hit me up with all kind of stuff, and I'm not trying to sell Isagenix here. I'm just saying that's what Polly and I use, and we're a lot younger for it. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And like one of the things I think about too, guys, is that how often do you hear, or maybe even say yourself, and a friend of mine, I was on a call right before this one who shared a quote that she had heard from one of her friends. And you've probably heard it before, that if you find value in something, you'll find a way. If you don't find value, you'll find an excuse.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I love that quote, because it's like, how much value do you put on your body? Like, if there's value in it, you will find it. And does that mean 24/7, like 7 days a week, 360? No, it means you're going to do a little, what is it? Oh, the right things and a little of the wrong things. It means you're going to get back on the horse.
Yeah.
Like once you've fallen off, like it means you do 3 days of Thanksgiving and then you come say, you know what, time for a cleanse day. And it's not like it's all good. It's all in self-love. It's because you deserve it, not because you're punishing yourself into a cleanse. Because, we had a new identity going, vision for, who we want to be. And we just need to get back to that. But it made me think about how many times we say, or we hear from other people, I've gotten totally sidetracked with Isagenix because, I've had this going on and this going on and that going on. And what's going on in my head is like, that's all the more reason that you need it.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, like of all the benefits that it gives to you, that it's like, why do we use life experiences as excuse to like not, true? I mean, easier said than done, right? Like it's that subconscious that wants to pull us back into a comfort, like when we're uncomfortable. But honestly, like sometimes what I want to say, to myself and to other people when I hear them, this happened, but I'm going to get back on track when, or after a vacation or at some other, and I'm like, God, like, do you know how much better you would be responding mentally, emotionally, physically, if you kept up the Isagenix during this tough time? Rather than I'm going to put it on the back burner until this passes. It's like, well, what does that have to do with being healthy? Like why? I mean, honestly, like Morgan just talked about like doing an honest self-assessment. It's like, what does a life circumstance other than your just trying to pull you back into an old identity, like what does it really have to do with making a shake? Is it harder to make a shake? Because I mean, it's your head, it's your mind, that's trying to pull you, trying to find that there's this stuff going on in my life, and so now I can't be healthy. I can't have that nutrition. And it's like, really? I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm being real. This is how I get with myself. When I start coming up with the list of reasons why, that I have that voice in the back of my mind that's like, into that new identity we were trying to create. You're already moving to excuses. That Isabody challenge, like, really? Already you don't want to get up and work out? It's only been 6 days. Like, the same voice that's there that wants back to the old identity, the voice there that's trying to push me forward to the new. That's like, don't fall for that. Right? You can make a shake. You can get up and go work out. You've got 20 minutes. 9 o'clock. Who wants the last word? I'm actually going to give it up this time.
I've already said what I got to say.
Okay. Anybody else? Final thoughts? No. All right. Mike, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on with us tonight. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Every time.
Love it.
And and please put in the LiveFULLy group more information about, Fat Guy Diary. We didn't get a chance to really kind of talk through that and, what you have to offer as a human around your experience.
My story's free on fatguydiary.com. I'll put it on there shortly. I'm going to get on the next call
Awesome.
at 9 o'clock. But Morgan's read it, and it's a simple read.
Awesome.
From a simple
All right.
guy.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining tonight, and we will see you next Monday.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having.